Have you ever wondered what really happened to Julius Caesar, one of the most famous and controversial figures in ancient history? How did a man rise from humble beginnings to become a powerful leader, only to be betrayed and assassinated by those closest to him? In this video, we will explore the complex web of betrayal and intrigue that surrounded him, and we will examine the political and personal motivations of those who sought to bring him down. Julius Caesar is a historical figure who has captured the imagination of people for centuries. He was a brilliant military commander, a gifted orator, and a leader who changed the course of Western civilization. However, his life was also marked by betrayal, intrigue, and ultimately, a shocking assassination. It all started when Julius Caesar formed political alliances that assisted him in becoming governor of Gaul, what is now known as France and Belgium. His Roman troops conquered Gallic tribes by taking advantage of tribal rivalries. During his 8-year governorship, he increased his military power while also acquiring plunder from Gaul. When his rivals in Rome demanded that he come back as a private citizen, he used his wealth to support his army as it marched across the Rubicon River from Gaul into Italy. This started a civil war between Caesar's forces and those of Pompey, Caesar's main rival for power, from which Caesar emerged victorious. When Caesar returned to Italy, he consolidated his power and established himself as a dictator. He was appointed dictator for a period of 10 years. Regardless of how much conquering Caesar did, many in Rome were opposed to the idea of one man, especially Caesar, wielding so much power. Unlike previous dictators who were appointed in times of crisis and for a limited period, Caesar's dictatorship was part of a larger plan to reform the Roman Republic. He was the most powerful dictator with the support of his allies, who saw him as the only person capable of enacting the changes they desired. As dictator, Caesar wielded absolute power and was able to bypass the traditional checks and balances of the Roman Republic. He issued decrees and made decisions without the need for approval from the Senate or the people. Many senators were opposed to Caesar's ambitions and feared that he would become too powerful and tyrannical. So, to be sure, not everyone was fighting to free the Republic. Some were out for simple revenge against Caesar. He had many adversaries because he rose to power through the military. Even though he had forgiven some people, he still felt bad about them. Caesar didn't care about the Senate and acted like he was better than them. He also made some rich and important people angry by messing around with their wives. He was also loved by a lot of people, which made it even harder for the conspirators to deal with him. They saw the assassination as a way to preserve the Republic and prevent Caesar from consolidating too much power. But can you guess who the mastermind behind all this was? Caesar would never have imagined that one of his best friends would plot something like an assassination. Decimus Brutus is the name you are looking for. He was one of the most fascinating and complex characters in the story of Julius Caesar's assassination. He was a man torn between loyalty to his friend and his belief in the importance of the Roman Republic. As a prominent member of the Roman elite, Brutus had a close relationship with Caesar and was even appointed as one of his advisors. But as Caesar's power grew and he began to act more like a king than a republican leader, Brutus became increasingly disillusioned. Despite his friendship with Caesar, Brutus believed that the assassination was a necessary sacrifice for the greater good. He saw Caesar as the threat to the Roman Republic and believed that his death would prevent him from becoming a tyrant. Brutus played a key role in the assassination itself, delivering the first blow to Caesar in the Senate. But he was also one of the conspirators who failed to foresee the chaos that would follow Caesar's death. But let's talk about what exactly happened during Julius Caesar's assassination. Gaius Julius Caesar went to the Senate meeting room in the afternoon of March 15, 44 BC. Caesar's right-hand man, Mark Antony, did not go to the meeting with him. Gaius Trebonius, an old friend of Mark Antony, pulled the consul aside there to talk about some important issues. Trebonius was another of Caesar's longtime allies. Since the Gallic Wars, he had been in the army with Caesar, Mark Antony, and Decimus Brutus. But, just like Decimus, he had lost faith in Caesar and joined the plot against the dictator. His job was to get Mark Antony and Caesar apart, and he was right. Soon after that, Caesar walks into the meeting room and finds a bloody coup waiting for him. He went straight to his golden chair as he walked through the room. The senators stood up to greet him. There were a few hundred senators there altogether. Most people didn't think anything unusual would happen before the meeting began. But the time had come for the 30 to 80 senators who were part of the plot. They got there early and hid their daggers in the folds of their togas as they watched Caesar enter the room. A senator named Julius Caesar approached Caesar. Caesar had been on Cimber's side during the last civil war, but since then, things between the two had gotten worse. Even more so after Caesar sent Cimber's brother away. Cimber walked up to Caesar as soon as the dictator sat down in his fancy chair. He wanted to talk to him before the meeting started. Cimber fell to his knees in front of Caesar. He asked Caesar for forgiveness for his brother, who had been sent away. Let him come back from being away. Caesar didn't think this was a big deal. Bringing Cimber's brother back from exile was not a pressing matter. He didn't care about Cimber's plea and told the senator that he would think about it. Then the other conspirators gathered around to offer their assistance. Caesar supposedly told him to leave, but Cimber allegedly grabbed him by the shoulders and pulled his toga down. Caesar exclaimed to Cimber and said, "This is violence." Casca pulled out his dagger and made a quick thrust at Caesar's neck. Caesar spun around and grabbed Casca by the arm. "Casca, you villain, what are you doing?" he said in Latin. Casca was terrified and yelled, "Help, brother," in Greek. Within seconds, the entire group, including Brutus, was attacking him. Caesar attempted to run, but the blood overcame him and he collapsed. Finding him defenselessly lying on the lower steps of the entrance hall, the men continued stabbing him as he lay on the lower steps of the entrance hall. It is claimed that about 60 men took part in the murder. He received 23 knife wounds. A doctor later determined that only one wound, the second to his chest, had been fatal. Academics and historians argue about Caesar's last words because no one knows for sure what they were. People have claimed that Caesar's final words were "Et tu, Brute," translated as "Caesain tekon," which means "You too, child?" These three Latin words, "Et tu, Brute," have come to represent one of Julius Caesar's most well-known quotes in modern times. It's important to know that Caesar never said these words before he died. None of our old records show that he did. Shakespeare deserves credit for this. Rome wasn't built in a day, as the saying goes, and neither did it fall in a day. The Ides of March, 44 BC, stands out as the date when things went wrong for the Roman Republic. The people who killed him wanted to protect the Republic, but they didn't know that his death would set off a chain reaction of civil wars and chaos. Brutus had planned to give a speech about the return of the Roman Republic right after Caesar was killed. He was shocked to hear that the news of the dictator's death was met with anger instead of praise. Even if Caesar had been an autocrat, the lower and middle classes didn't seem to mind because he made a lot of changes that helped them, like getting rid of debts and changing the tax code. The assassination of Caesar did not bring peace to the Roman Republic. Instead, it sparked another civil war as Caesar's supporters fought the killers and then each other. Mark Antony, Caesar's former second-in-command, gave a powerful speech at his funeral that made it seem like he should be Caesar's rightful successor. However, Caesar had already planned for that to happen. Caesar named his sick 18-year-old great-nephew Octavian as the main heir in his will and made plans for him to be adopted. Thanks for watching this video on the shocking life of Julius Caesar. We hope you've enjoyed learning about the assassinations, betrayals, and intrigue that defined his reign and ultimately led to his downfall.